Hello, this is Debra Carmona here, and I have an upgrade on my masks. I finally got my elastic in, and I've made a couple of modifications to the mask. Now here's my standard mask that I was making before, the same, but I finally got my elastic in that I ordered. Actually from Amazon it took me more than a month to get it. But I ordered from American Ribbon and got a lot of elastic in, and so I've been sewing with that, and I've used up 100 yards of that. And then today I finally got my Amazon order of elastic. So I'm well stocked in elastic, but then I ran into a new problem. I was out of interfacing. Walmart, everybody's making masks. Walmart fabric section is pretty well picked over. They were out of interfacing. I keep going back. They haven't restocked. I went to Hobby Lobby. They're closed. One of the non-essential businesses shut down. And I went to Joann Fabrics thinking, oh no, they're probably going to be closed too. But because people are making gowns and masks, they are considered essential and they are open. But they had limitations. Only 10 people could go in the store at a time. So you had to wait outside, wait until a shopper finished, and when one shopper finished and came out, then they would allow the next customer in. So the cashier has to ring up a person, go to the door, unlock the door, let out the customer, let in a customer, lock the door, and go back to her station. Kind of a pain. And everybody in there was very careful to stay far away from each other, you know, and most of them were wearing masks. And while I was there, I grabbed 4 yards of interfacing, but they were running out. And I've heard that Joann is no longer offering kits to sell masks because they've run out of supplies. And I heard the lady answer somebody on the phone calling about interfacing, and she said, well, we're almost out. So I haven't gone back there. So great, I'm running out of interfacing now. Well, I did. You know, I posted on Facebook. Sometimes, you know, Facebook can be a great community. You put something out there and somebody responds to it, and they give you some information that you didn't know. And somebody told me about a textile store here in town, and I've gone to that store so many times and they are never open. Well, they gave me the phone number. I called them up and told him what I needed. He said he had it and he would open up for me. So I had to go there. And I get there and the gates are all locked up. So I called him again and he said, oh, I'll let you in. So he opened it up just for a little bit and there happened to be 2 other people that needed supplies as well. And so we got in there and he had really good prices, but the place smells kind of musty and you know, it's very old. The prices are cheap. So if you get a mask from me, please wash it before using it. Although most of the fabrics are clean that I got from Joann Fabrics or Walmart. But I did have some stuff that was donated to me and I don't know where it came from. And some of it had a little bit of a fragrance to it that you might not like. So it's just a good idea to wash the masks when you get them. So anyways, let me get back to. Okay, so my standard mask. I really love sewing with the elastic, and I'm going to show you. I could sew a mask like this in 5 minutes. I was trying to time myself to see if I could do it in 4 minutes, but 5 minutes is what it is. 5 minutes and 5 seconds. It takes me to sew up a mask like this. Well, my first masks were sent out like this. I want to put this on because I want to show you something. This right here, it's too close to the eyes. It's too close to the eyes right here. And you know, it's not the best fit. There's a gap right here, and it's kind of close to the eyes. So I decided to do something different. Now what I'm doing is I'm using pipe cleaners to put a little wire nose bridge in it. And I'm going to show you how I do that. And then I have also reshaped my mask. You can see that this one has a bit of a hump on it, and I'm going to show you how I do that. And with the wire in it, see, it's got a wire, and it's encased in a piece of bias tape. And this fits really good there's no gape right here. When it has a wire in it and it's bent to fit the nose, it's really good. Also, I made, did I knock my mannequin over? I made these masks, I shaped them that way because I want to, if somebody is going to wear them to cover, I got pins on this because it doesn't always hold real good. If they want to cover the N95 mask, I want to make sure that they get good coverage. So another change that I made is when I cut them out, I cut them 9 inches wide and 8 inches height, lengthwise. That way there's enough room to go around the N95 mask. And with a little wire here, it helps to fit better around it, and then this part is not running into the eyeball. So I'm going to show you how I modified that mask. In my previous video, I showed you different methods you could use without having to use an elastic because I was short on elastic. But like I say, I really like sewing the elastic because I can sew these up in 5 minutes. The elastic just makes it so much easier. It takes a lot more work. You could use fabric strips, you could use bias strips, you can use ribbon, and it has been reported back to me that ribbon, satin ribbon especially, it does slip, and so it's not the best material. If you use the type of ribbon that's got ridges in it, that's a little better. Fabric, yes, they love the fabric straps, the nurses do, but it takes more time. And when you've got hundreds and hundreds of orders like I do, because I'm not charging for making the mask, I'm donating them to whoever wants them, but I just got so overwhelmed. I had so many orders. It's like, I don't have any help. I'm doing this all by myself, and I can't keep up with the orders. So I want to sew as fast as I can, and so I really like the elastics. But I heard through the grapevine, and the grapevine is Facebook, and that nurses don't like some of the elastics. Some people are using headbands for the elastic. Now these really skinny ones, I would think that would be very annoying to have on the ear all day. That would be annoying because it's short. It doesn't have as much elasticity. The thicker ones, they're pretty tough. Even that, I think, oh yeah, I could feel the pressure. That would be annoying. So I've not made masks with these because I just don't feel like it's going to be very effective. I like to think about the practicality and the usefulness of a product, and I want to make a quality product. The elastic is much softer. It does not hurt the ears. That is much softer. This is not a very hard elastics. Now there's different types of elastics, and the one that I got, that's pretty soft, but my worry with this one is because it's softer, it's probably a cheaper grade, and if it's stretched a lot, it might over time wear out the elastic, because even when I just pull it like that, I can see how the grains kind of, I just worry that'll wear out. So, but anyways, okay, so how do I deal with the problem that nurses are complaining that the elastics are hurting their ears? So I have a solution. Actually, I have 2 solutions, and I'm going to share that with you. So for the nurses, I do my mask differently. So I always ask, who's this for? Is this a medical professional? Because I do their mask a little bit differently, and I will show you how I do that in this video. So I'm super happy that I finally got a good supply of interfacing. I got 10 yards right there. This right here, 10 yards of it. That should take me quite a while because I have plenty of fabric and I have plenty of elastic, so I'm well stocked right now thanks to some generous people that donated some supplies. The interfacing is used as a liner between the 2 fabrics, the outside and inside, and it has to be a non-woven material to be something like a filter. It may not be 100% the best material, but you don't want to just put a third layer of just a woven fabric, because woven fabric is going to have holes and stuff can get through. I have ordered a special filtering fabric from Amazon, and I'm waiting for that, but I might not get it till June probably. But you do have to have some kind of a protective layer, and because I'm making these to fit over the N95 mask, if they feel like it's not safe enough for them, they can still put it over their mask, and that will help keep the N95 mask to last longer. And the great thing about the fabric masks is they're washable. And I've also had requests for making a mask to be able to put to have a pocket in it to do a filter. So that's another pattern that I'm going to have to develop. To make our wire bridge, I'm using a whole piece of pipe cleaner. Now you hit the end of it and it's got sort of a sharp point there, so I like to take the end and bend it, and now it does not have a sharp point. Nothing more annoying than having a sharp point. I mean, all you women who wear wire bras, those after a while they wear out, and those little points can be so annoying. About 2.5 inch, we'll bend it. It doesn't have to be exact. We bend it like this, and then this is going to be a little bit wider, a little bit longer. We go around and then we do it a 4th time, so it's kind of making a loop. We go a 4th time, and there'll be a little extra left over. So I take this, and because it can separate when it's put in, so I want to try to make it one. So I'll try to weave this and just kind of in and around, and just try to help hold the whole thing together. And I do try to squeeze it so it's more of a narrow. I'm trying to make it so it's just one shape, so that it kind of works like one piece. And you want to make sure that that last little part is not going to be sticking in an odd place. Okay, so now our whole thing is less than 3 inches long, and see, that's just about the right size to bend over the nose. Okay, so now we have to make it. The reason I've chosen this as opposed to floral wire, I've seen how some people are sewing floral wire right into the mask, but what happens when you wash it? That wire is going to rust. I mean, maybe if it's got a plastic coating like bread ties, possibly it'll hold up longer. But my plan is this can be taken out, set aside, and they can wash the mask, and then when it's done they can put it back in. So what I'm doing is I'm making a pocket. Okay, this large fold, this is the top side, so I'm going to put it on the back side. I'm going to put a little pocket right here, and for that I am using bias tape. Now this quilt binding is a little too fat, so what I've been doing with this, because I have to work with what I have, I cut them in half, and I can get 2 out of those. The single fold bias tape is a little bit narrow. Here's one right here. It's very tight. It actually it pushes the wire right up to the top, which is very good, but you gotta sew you have to sew right on the very edge to get that, and it's a little harder to get the wire in and out. So what's easier is the double fold bias tape. Let me get one that's like right here. This is a little easier, so you can make a pocket a little wider. But that's actually too wide, so you can stitch a lot closer to make it a little bit skinnier. If it's about a 1/2 inch wide, then that gives you, it's easier to slip this in and out, and that's another reason why the pipe cleaner works great. So once I have my pipe cleaner folded, I lay it on here, and I want to make it a little bit bigger. That way I have room to sew the edges over. But this is a quilt binding, so it's like extra wide. That's way too wide. But if I cut this in half, it'll be a good size. So I only need to use one of these pieces. The other half can go in another mask. I take both ends and I sew those down because you don't want to slide something in and it catches on the fabric. So I like to have a finished edge, so I sew those two ends down like that on both ends before I apply. Okay, with two ends sewed down, now I'm just going to finger press a little edge right there. And on the back side in the center, I could just put one pin, but I don't really need to pin it because I'm sewing this one straight. Got to back stitch on both ends so that it holds it good. Okay, now we need to fold over the bottom edge. Get extra string here. And I'm going to try to make it a little tighter so it's not too awfully tight. As long as we got at least a 1/2 inch width here, that'll be pretty decent for sliding that in, because that's going to fit in there very nicely. So when I fold this over, I'm folding it to almost to the other seam. And the great thing about this design is if you've got a bunch of masks already made and you hadn't been putting a wire in it, you can just go on, you can go back to them and you can add the wire, because you got them all made. See how that slides in there? Whoops, see that little tail sticks out. It slides in there, and you can use a pencil to push it in there. And so then they have a wire that they can add to the mask. Now usually I ship them flat and then they can shape it their way. Now I'm going to show you that it can come out. Now I made it a little tighter, so it's a little harder to get out. So I'm going to just use a little pen tip and I'm going to try to push it and pull it out, see? So that way they can pull it out to wash and we don't have to worry about rust, and so the mask will be used over and over again. And then when they're all clean, they just put it back in. So that works great. Here is my 9x8. I have my interfacing and the front and the back. So to reshape my mask, I first fold it in half, and I'm going to cut off about a 1/2 inch right here, get about halfway, and then I start angling it upward. And this is how I shape the top of the mask. So I always cut them out in rectangular shapes. But then when I'm going to make it, like if I'm going to do it for the common everyday person that doesn't have to wear a mask for long hours, they only need it when they go to the store or go to the doctor's appointment, something like that, I will make the mask this way. And I would just do it straight. So I don't go and cut them all that way until I know, okay, this is going to be for a nurse, so I'm going to do this one differently. Okay, so take out that, and we have my interfacing on the back. Now I need to cut my elastic. And I want it to be about 6 inches. Don't stretch the elastic when you're cutting it. Alright, then we pin our elastic. I'm going to have at least a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so I want to put this close to, but not on the 1/2 inch. I want it to be about 5/8 of an inch from the edge. 5/8 of an inch from the bottom. Do that to both sides. I'm right-handed, so I tend to flip it so that I can try to make it the same place on both sides. Sometimes when I'm hurrying, they don't wind up in the exact same spot. But I do try. Okay, now we put this on. I like to put the pin on the inside of the elastic. So I'm putting basically 2 pins on each corner. And it's good to do the same thing every time, because you only see 4 pins on top. Some of them they're hidden back there, but if you know you put a pin in the elastic and then you added 1 more, you know you have to take out 2 pins, because if you forget that, then you cut and you mess up your scissors trying to cut the pin. Okay, so we have our shaped side and our straight side. So we'll start on our straight side. Pivot our needle. Pivot on the corner. Following the shape. Pivot on the corner. Make sure we're past the elastic. And leave a gap right here in the middle, about 3 fingers wide. Now we take out 2 pins. 1, 2. 1, 2. It's useful to always do the same thing, because you don't want to mess up your scissors, because we have to clip those corners. Alright. Now we clip off the corners, and that's important, because when it turns inside out, this fabric is going to be like that. If you don't clip the corners, you're going to have excess bulk right here. It'll also be hard to sew. So it is important that you clip the corners. Alright, now this side is curved. Let me turn so you can see it. This side is curved, so we have to do some clipping here as well. So I'll cut out little V's in places where it has a turn. The places where it turns the most is where it needs little V's. But you could actually, this place is almost straight, so I'm only going to just make one little straight cut there. Right here it bends more, so that way you don't have extra bulk. See, when this is inside, those are almost touch. Right there. This will leave, you won't have bulky points, and I think that's going to work just fine. See? Okay, now we turn it between the 2 pieces of fabric. First I use my finger to push out the corners. And sometimes you look at it and say, oh, it looks straight. So you gotta push out that little bump there. It's going to be the nose area. A lot of times what I'll do with this opening, this slot right here that we just turned it, is I will make sure it's folded down, and I'll just kind of finger press it. To make the corners good, I have a rounded tip on my scissors, so I can push out the corners. Alright, now we go to the ironing board. First we press it flat. And then this is our top. We want to fold this down so that we have about 1 inch right here. I've seen people wear their mask in all kinds of strange ways. I'm like, just came from Walmart, and people were wearing masks on their chin. They're wearing them below their nose. What's the point? If you're going to wear a mask, wear a mask. Okay, that comes to almost about center between here and there. And then the last one, you want to leave about an inch on the bottom, so your pleats or tucks or folds, whatever you want to call them, are in this middle of the mask. You can pin it this way in the center when you're sewing it. That way you don't have pins getting in the way. So you can pin it in the center when you're sewing it down here, but you still have to hold this end so it stays close because it might slip on you. But I like to start on the end so I can hold this down, and I can use my fingers to kind of hold those pleats down. If you don't have fingernails, you can always use your seam ripper as an extension of your finger. If you're nervous, you can hold it like this. I go slow on the side to make sure the pleat's exactly where they need to be. It's this side where the pleats are going that way that you have to be a little more careful about, because they might flip up on you. Okay, we got it. Have my needle down when I pivot. I've sewed this once and twice, and now I'm doing it a third time. Just to make sure that elastic is very secure. I think in the other video I went all the way around the whole thing twice. I don't think that's necessary to do that here and there, but where the elastic is attached, I think it's useful. Extra row of stitching to make sure that elastic is very firm in there. Now you can sew in the same stitch line, or you can sew maybe a 1/4 inch away from it to have a second row. Either one will be fine. Alright, now we take out our pins, and we will use that other half. Where is it? That other half that I cut to put, and we'll do it the same manner to put a little slot. So I don't think I need to show you that. I need to show you that because this is curved. It's not straight. It's not straight like this one. So first of all, I'll finger press that edge. Basically fold this end down to that fold line that was there before, and pin first the very center. Make sure you're on the inside. This pleat right here is the front. This is the top front. So make sure you're on the back side. Place a pin in the center. Now this is bias tape, so which means it has stretchability, so you can actually stretch it a little bit as you turn it. Kind of pull and stretch it as you pin that top edge. That's the benefit of the bias tape, is that when it's going around curves, you can stretch it. Okay, so it's pinned on the curve, and then we sew it, pretty much in the same place where we sewed the previous row of stitching. I stitched right in the same as the previous line. Now we have to fold the bottom, and we only need about a ½ inch or slightly more. So we've got that much to fold. So I'm gonna just finger press it. It's probably a little bit wider than a ½ inch. It could be. It's a little harder to slip in and out the. Okay, so you can see that because I stretch the top, it actually lays fairly flat. If you don't stretch the top, you're going to have buckles and puckers right here. So I don't need to use very many pins for this bottom. Now I do not have to sew right on the very edge. I can actually come in about the same distance that I did right here. And that way it'll give us about a ½ inch pocket. Stitch on the beginning. Okay, we have our pocket. Now we just got to get our pipe cleaner folded to fit. And it doesn't really matter the color of the pipe cleaner. If I have a very light fabric, I might choose a white, or I might have a coordinating color. This is blue, so I'll choose blue. So we'll bend this, have it all folded down. It's it's about 2½, slightly more than 2½ inches. I want to make sure it's nice and skinny. And feel it. Make sure you don't have any sharp points. And we just slip it in there. And see, it can be bent to be the shape that it needs, and that makes a much better fitting mask. And so this is what I do for medical professionals to make them a better fitting mask, and it's wide enough that it can fit over the N95 mask. I believe in efficiency, so here's a little tip. I'm sewing this edge over, and while I'm at it, I might as well do the other one because that's the quilt binding. I cut it in half because it was too much, so I might as well sew both of them at the same time. It just saves a little time. I'll do the same to the other side so it's still connected. I often use this trick whenever I'm quilting. So you can, if you're sewing several things the same size or whatever, you know, you can just do continuous sewing. Just go from one to the other, and you can do a whole string of them. And I've done that before too. And then when you need it, you just slip. That also saves thread and saves time. When I send out my masks, I usually enclose a little note explaining how they need to remove the pipe cleaner before washing so that it doesn't rust, and also the materials that are used in making it, and explain that this is cotton. It can be washed in the washing machine. It can be dried in the dryer, or if you prefer, you can let it dry in the sun, because they say that's a good way to disinfect it if it dries in the sun, but it might fade the colors as well. now to deal with the elastics behind the ears. How do we deal with that problem, since I prefer making my mask with elastic? Well, here is solution number one. A headband. A headband with a button, so the elastic goes around the button instead. The headband has Velcro, so it's adjustable to fit most any head, and it's just 2 layers of fabric with, I put interfacing just to add a little bit of thickness to it. So to make the headband, I cut 2 strips 30 inches long and folded them half, and then I tapered the one end so it's skinnier. And I also cut a piece of interfacing for one side. So right sides together, the whole thing. Oh, I left both ends open so it's easier to turn, and then I just sort of tucked in the end with my fingers, and then I did my top stitch all the way. Turn, press, top stitch all the way around, and you put a piece of the soft Velcro on one side, and then on the opposite side you put the sticky Velcro. When it's all put together, you take where it's joined here at the Velcro and put that in the center and hold it like this. Put the buttons on these sides. The buttons might have to be moved depending on the person that uses it, but I think most anybody could sew on a button. You just take a seam ripper and you cut those threads, and you can just hand sew it on with a needle and thread. I think most everybody can sew on a button, can't they? But the Velcro helps to make it adjustable for the head. In this way, it protects the ears of the nurses so they don't have to get chafing behind the ears from the long hours that they work. Now, the nurses that I am in contact with, they're not complaining. Matter of fact, they'll take anything. They don't care if they have a headband or something else. You can also get the stretchy headbands and just sew buttons on them, and that can work. I just didn't want to have to buy something else because I've already invested quite a bit of money in fabric and sewing notions and interfacing and bias tape and extra fabric. I mean, yeah, I've had some stuff donated to me, but I've invested a pretty good sum of money on this project. So I was trying to cut my expenses by not having to go buy something else, because I actually bought headbands and I bought hair bands, and I decided I didn't like them, and so I wound up not using them. And I bought bias tape. Okay, that's option number one. I will show you option number two. Option number two, I make these short straps. They're about 6 inches long. I cut them out 7 inches long by 2.5 inches wide, and I put a piece of interfacing in it as well. Right sides together and sew them all the way around, leaving a little gap. Clip the corners, turn them, press them, and then I top stitch all the way around. So when it's finished, it's 6 inch long by 1.5 inches wide. And then I sew 2 buttons on either side. This is less they have to wear. I'm sure they have to wear headgear when they're, you know, the nurses are working, and so this is a little less they have to wear. Plus, it's faster to sew up, and it should fit most any head. And the elastics would just stretch back instead of the ears. They bypass the ears. They would hook on the buttons of this little back strap. I guess, I don't know what to call it, a back strap, I guess. So that is option number 2. And I typically like to have at least 2 masks. So I coordinate the back strap so that it can go with both of the masks. So sometimes I will combine colors of 2 different fabrics. So it has a fabric of one mask and the fabric of the other mask. And you can design them however you want. I've seen people can crochet them. You could use like a thick cord, like a paracord, and you could actually crochet or braid to make such a strap. This fabric is really quick and easy to make, so I like that because it takes less fabric, less material, and it saves me time. But I think the back straps are going to be great. And I think from here on out, I'm just going to make the back straps and coordinate them with the masks. Because I like to give nurses at least 2 pairs of masks. So they can wear one, wash one, and they can alternate back and forth. So I hope you found these ideas great. Hope it helps you in your pursuit of making masks to help with the cause. Thanks for watching, and keep up the sewing. God bless you, and we'll see you in the next video. That's if you're subscribed. Thanks for watching.